Alright, so I just bought this skid steer, sight unseen. Came from 5 hours away. I paid $8 grand for it and another $1,000 to get it shipped, but which seems like a lot to get it shipped, but that's an entire day for me and then a bunch of fuel, and I don't do well with really long trips like that. I tend to fall asleep, so it was worth the effort to have somebody else do it. So the place that I got this from said it smokes a lot, it smells like unburnt fuel, it's white smoke. They also said that it knocks, but then I asked them like what kind of knock is it, and they were like, well, it's not really a knock, it's more like a miss. And as soon as they said that, I was like, all right, I'll take it, because if it's not a knock, then that's a lot of less work than I thought. Because at first he said there was a knock, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get involved in it, maybe not. And then once he said it wasn't really a knock and it was just a miss, I was like, all right, you know what, I'll take it. And I sent them the money. One of the coolest things about this machine is the fact that it's a side door entry like an excavator would be. That's really neat. For anybody that's got like back problems or neck problems or just in general any kind of physical problem, this is ideal rather than trying to walk over the bucket and duck down. And it's a little bit more safe too, because no matter what position the boom is in, you can always exit without being underneath of the boom. Like let's say you're loading a truck and the machine stalls out. Now you got to get out somehow and you're going to be underneath the boom to do it. So that's not likely to happen very often, but I'm just saying this is a little bit safer because you're never underneath the boom. So it's unfortunate that it's not like a full cab with heat and air conditioning and windows and stuff, but I'm assuming I can just put a piece of plexiglass over the front here. Right off the bat, I'm noticing that there is a pin missing from right there, so we got to get a pin for there. But obviously the main issue is that we got to figure out what's going on with the engine. It's probably something along the lines of an injector, or maybe a cylinder is just not firing, maybe the rings are shot, or a bent connecting rod or something like that. I'm sure it's nothing real serious, but I'm also pretty sure that I'm gonna have to tear into the motor pretty far. First thing we gotta do is get this open. Okay, there we go. It definitely does smell like unburnt fuel too. And by the way, this is turbo, so that's a little bit of an improvement over my other skid steer. But the specs on this, according to what I saw very quickly on a quick search, the breakout force and the tipping point is a little bit less than the Gel that I have. But it's not enough to make it like not worth running or anything. So it looks pretty clean in here. But this is a Perkins engine, and I've heard horror stories about Perkins. I've never had one myself, but a lot of people don't really like them. So that is going to be one drawback about this machine, I think. I don't really know for sure. I'm just going by what other people say. So I'm going to start looking for little clues here and there as to maybe what's going on. First thing I see is the nuts on these injector lines do have a lot of wear, like somebody's been there a lot of times loosening them up, probably because they're trying to bleed them out because they ran out of fuel, or because they're trying to diagnose whatever is going on with this. Oil's not milky. It's kind of dirty, but that's to be expected. Antifreeze is full and it's clean. No oil residue up here. This looks a little funky here, like it's out of place, but I think that's fine. Nothing obvious stands out here. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is see if I can locate the right fittings to test the cylinders for compression. That's probably one of the first things I need to do here. Figure out if it's just one cylinder or if it's all 4 cylinders that something's happening to. If it's just one cylinder with low compression, then we got to check further. At least take off the valve cover. Maybe there's something wrong underneath there, push rod or something. If all 4 cylinders have low compression, which I highly doubt they would, but if they do, then it's probably something like rings or something like that. And if the compression is fine in this engine, then the next thing we're going to look at is injectors. And if those are fine and they check out, have them tested, then we're going to look into the injection pump. I don't know why this is off of here. Let's just start it up again and keep this dipstick out of here so we can see if there's any blow by. I doubt it though. The smoke is white. It's hard to tell. There could be a little bit of blow by, but I don't think it's anything serious. I do see evidence of something going on right there. Looks like soot is coming out of the turbo. Maybe there's an exhaust leak there. That could be the ticking that they were hearing. That might not have anything to do with the problem though. Let's start it up again and see if I can feel some sort of exhaust leak there. Yeah, there's a hole right in the side of that turbo housing right there. That'll definitely lose some power, but that's not going to be why it's smoking. One thing I do see here is that this tube is disconnected from this over here, which I don't really know what that is right there. Something to do with the fuel. Alright, so I got looking around in here, and this right here is the fuel pump. So this hose that I connected on this end is just going right over there to that end. That's why it wasn't connected, because that's not the way it's supposed to be connected. So I don't know why the fuel pump isn't hooked up. They have this right here. Maybe that was to diagnose it temporarily. I don't know, but I think it's worth a try to hook that pump back up, because if it doesn't have a fuel pump, then it's not getting enough fuel pressure. And if it's not getting enough fuel pressure, the injection pump is not working right. So I need to figure out how to route this. It looks like there's an arrow on here that goes that way. So I believe this is the incoming fuel, and that should be going to the filters. Alright, so from what I'm seeing on the fuel diagram for this machine, this primer pumper stays right here, goes into the fuel filter, but this needs to be connected to this hose, and then this hose needs to be connected to the inlet of the fuel pump. And it's funny because there wasn't enough slack in this line the way it was. I had to pull it up because they had a zip tie here, which looks like somebody put that on there, and this was tucked all the way down and you couldn't pull it up. But once I realized there was actually slack over there because the fuel tank's over there, I was able to kind of wiggle it and twist it and get some slack in order to get it over here. I think, and I could be totally wrong, but I think somebody had this apart. They had the fuel system apart. Maybe something was wrong, or they had this radiator off or something to do with that. And when they put it back together, they didn't know how it went back together. They figured this hose wasn't long enough to reach there, so they just randomly hooked it up wherever they thought should be hooked up. Let's see if that's the problem. So I don't think that really changed anything. I don't know how. I know the injection pump acts as sort of a pump itself, but still, it's getting almost no pressure going into the injection pump. I do hear what sounds like a slight knock though. I don't know if it's a really light knock or a heavy tick. I'm not sure, but I guess the problem lies somewhere else. I knew it wouldn't be that easy, but you never know, because people, when they get these machines, this guy got this as a trade-in, and he basically just sort of put it aside and just wanted to sell it. So the best thing you can hope for when you buy a machine like this is that the person that tried to fix it did almost absolutely nothing to try to fix it, and they just gave up on it. That's the best thing you can hope for. The worst thing that can happen is you had them really deep dive into this machine and then figure out something that it'll take you a long time to figure out as well, and then that's the reason they sold it. But for $8 grand, I figured I could rebuild this whole engine in here and still come out way ahead, because it's just some parts, a few $100s in parts. So I could do an in-frame rebuild. From what I saw, pretty easy. So another easy and quick test I'm going to do is just cracking these injector lines while it's running and listen for sounds of either it changing or it not changing. Alright, so what did that just tell us? That just told us that that cylinder has a problem with it, because I cracked the injector and it didn't make any difference, no different sound, but all three of these other injectors, cracking those made it run a lot worse. So this cylinder is getting fuel, but it's not getting burnt. I wonder why that is. One of the next easiest things I can do without tearing this apart too much is to take an injector from this cylinder and put it onto this one. Just flip-flop them and see. If at that point this one doesn't make any difference when I crack the line and this one does, then we know we have a bad injector. If not, then we're not getting good compression. And if I flip-flop those injectors and this one still has the problem, then we know it's a problem with the cylinder itself. Most likely low compression. Could be something with the valves. Maybe. I doubt it. Most likely it's going to be either a bent connecting rod, bad rings, broken rings, stuck ring, or a very scratched cylinder wall, which I'm hoping that that's the one that it is not. All the other stuff is pretty easily fixable. I suppose it could also be a bad connecting rod bearing too, which would make it so it would be loose in there and not properly functioning, which that's also pretty easily fixable. It's the cylinder wall that I think is going to be the biggest problem, because I don't know if this is sleeved or not. When you look up the parts for this, they do show sleeves, but they don't have the lip on the top. Some of them don't, so it almost looks like a repair sleeve, which means it's not sleeved, which means the whole engine would have to come out completely disassembled and cleaned and then machined, which is a huge task. But everything else should be pretty easy. This is a skid steer.
It's broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
It's a bear. It's a...
What?
It's a bear. I didn't do it.
Well, that's what's supposed to happen. It's a side door.
I didn't know it was supposed to go like that long.
Yeah.
Is a window supposed to go here?
I don't know. Maybe. I could put one there.
And some sort of clear glass or something?
Watch out, that thing will smack you in the face.
What does that do?
That's to open it from the inside.
Hey, Marlon. I can't control myself.
You can't control yourself? Is that what you said? Did you really just say that? You can't control yourself? Is that what you said?
He said, I can't control myself because I'm on top.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool. It has a little back mirror. Oh,
Yeah,
it
they all do.
moves. It moves though. Is this one? I have a question. Does this one have it where like? Oh, good. Is this one for the steering?
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't know if it was one of those ones where you had the pedal from the bottom.
Nope, I don't buy those anymore. Only pilot controls.
This one would be a nice little skid steer for me. If they come with a bucket.
No. But I'll get a bucket.
You already have buckets though.
You got that, dude?
It's kind of hard to close. That's the only thing.
There you go. All right, back to work.
This is like a weird looking skid steer.
Yeah.
I have a mod on my farming simulator.
You have a what?
There's a mod that I try to avoid getting that's like this. It's not the same brand. And it comes with track and wheel.
Yeah. All right, you guys go back over with Mommy. It's pretty dirty, but I've seen worse. But you can see the tip of it looks like nothing's been through there in a while. So you probably can't pick it up on camera, but on this injector, which we know is good, or we assume to be good, there's like a little tiny nipple right on the end. This one doesn't have that. It's just totally flat. As a matter of fact, there's almost like a hole there. Looks to me like we just need a new injector. But it's easy enough for me to just swap them out and let's see what's going on. So I'm going to leave this line cracked open a little bit because we know we're going to have to bleed it. And I guess I might as well leave this one open too. unfortunately the problem did not follow the injector. So at this point we're going to go ahead and test the compression in that cylinder. Hopefully I got the right adapters to do it. That seems like it'll do the trick. Alright, so hear me out here. This is what I've come up with. This is really stupid. Don't ever do this. But in this case, it'll probably work for what I need. I'll just stand back to make sure nothing flies out and hits me or something. But these cylinders should run from 3 to 500 psi. I don't know, I didn't look up the specs on this one. But the first thing I'm going to do is just test to see if it has any pressure at all. And then we'll go from there. But this is the only way I could make this work. And even this doesn't work. I got to put this in and then tighten that hose clamp on the bottom. The top one I can tighten right now, but this is the only way it's going to work without having to wait a week for an adapter to come in the mail. So since it's zero compression, it's probably not the rings, it's probably not the cylinder walls, it's probably either a bent connecting rod or it's something to do with the valves. Maybe a push rod got broke or misplaced or something. I'm not sure, I gotta think about it. But let's take this valve cover off and see if we can see anything in there. This rocker here, no matter what position you put the motor in, both of these rockers here are just totally free. There's a lot of play in there too, like an eighth of an inch or so. Okay, now that's weird. I just pushed that down and it's staying down, and now there's no play anymore. Oh, you know what? I think I made the push rod go to the side and it's holding it up from the side now. Okay, that's better. Alright guys, so I found the problem, and not good news. Here is the injector hole, injector port, and let's go down to the cylinder and check the piston out. What's that right there? That is a hole in the piston. You can see right down through it. You can see connecting rod right there. I'm actually going to go in that little hole. Anyways, you get the point. That piston is shot. You can see it's fractured all over. So that would explain why there's zero compression instead of little compression, because the size of that hole looks like, I can't tell for sure, but it looks like about a 1/2 inch to a 3/4 of an inch. When you got that big of a hole in there, it's not going to make any compression at all, which that makes sense. So the bigger question is, why is there that hole in there? Fixing that is not a huge deal. It's a lot of work, but it's not the end of the world. But why is the bigger question. Now, it could be something like maybe this was tipped on its side, and same thing with the last skid steer where it was cranked over when there was oil inside of the cylinder. That could have blown out the piston. But most likely that usually blows out either the head gasket or bends a connecting rod. So I'm really not sure what would cause that piston to have a hole in it. But at this point, the only thing we can do is start tearing it down and see if we can see anything obvious. Still don't know why this rocker is so loose. That's a weird sound too. See, that's what they're supposed to sound like, just nice and solid. This one has like a clank to it. This one has a clank sometimes. Yeah, so you hear that? There's a little clank to it. So right now, you guys are going to find out with me whether this is going to be a total nightmare to do, or whether it'll be nice access and it'll be easy to do. So let's see. Yep. Gonna be a pulling the engine. There's no access underneath here at all to that oil pan. None whatsoever. That is really stupid. That just got a lot harder. I don't know why manufacturers do that. Just leave us some access for the oil pan. I can't tell you how many times I've been through this. There's just no reason for that. How hard is it to design it in a way where you have a pan that you can unbolt? Just like, how hard is it? I just don't understand. Seriously. That really does almost nothing for us. Definitely not going to be able to replace a piston like that. I don't even know how you change the oil on this thing. This is crazy. So yeah, I guess to change the oil, they got this hanging out of here, and you just unbolt that and that drains the oil. That's crazy. I know they could do better than that. I hope the newer models are not like that, because man, I would never buy one. I mean, I got a really good deal on this one, and even if I got to replace the piston by pulling the motor, it's still worth it, but man, it's just so stupid the way they do that. I think one of the biggest issues I'm going to have here is just unbolting the engine from the pump, because there's no access. Again, they didn't leave any access right there. So yeah, you can flip the cab up, but there's still this in between. There's like this firewall that's in the way of everything. So how do you even pull the engine? You gotta take the pump with it? That's crazy. Because there's just no way to get the bottom bolts. I don't know, I gotta look at the manual, but I'm really disgusted. We're gonna get this done, but I'm really super disgusted with this. I've never had a JCB and I've never dealt with them, but I could see how this is really annoying. So at this point, the next thing I want to try is a cylinder leak down test. So I'm going to use the same fitting that I used to test for compression there, except I'm going to put air into the cylinder. I just got to find top dead center first, and then we're going to see where it's leaking. I got it at top dead center, and it's definitely leaking air into the crankcase. Even with full blast of air, it won't even hold anything. It won't even show up on the gauge. So it's definitely leaking a lot of air somewheres. It's got to be either the rings, it's got to have a hole in the piston or a crack in the piston. And the problem with taking the head gasket, and the problem with taking the head off right now, I want to see if it's something stupid, or to just diagnose it further before I really tear into this engine. But the problem is, in order to do this whole project, I need to get this engine out of here, which involves taking the pump out with it, which is a huge task. But I need some place to lift the engine, and from what I'm seeing, the only place to really lift it is from the head. So if I take the head off, I might not have a way to get this out of here. I'm sure I could get creative and figure out something, but I think they want you to take it out with the head on it. I'm so tempted to just take a grinder and cut a hole in the bottom of this, just big enough to work on the oil pan, but I'm sure there's got to be a reason why they didn't do that. Probably a stupid reason, like they don't want you working on it like that, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to really compromise the integrity of this. A big part of me wants to cut a hole with a grinder, and then when I'm done, I can either bolt it back with a bunch of bolts, not just like 4, to hold it together, or I could even weld it back together. It's so tempting to do that, and I'm going to think about it for a little while longer, because that's still an option. But I'm just going to think of all my options here. In the meantime, this is not the place where I want to work on this. I want to work on it over there, so I got to get it back together enough, because either way I go, I need to get this back together and get it over there no matter what I do. So I need to put this back together enough to run and then just drive it over there. Well, we'll just try to get it in there safely. Clear.
Clear prop.
So here we are back in my cramped up garage, but it's plenty big enough for what I need to do in here. I got lots of room over there to pull the motor, so that's what I'm going to do. We're going to pull the engine out of here. So I need to get everything off the back end here, disattach the lines from the front that go to the pump, probably pull the pump with it. So before I remove this engine, I figured it's probably worth it to take the head out first, just in case there's something wrong like a head gasket. I highly doubt it. I guess a cracked head is also a possibility, but it's got zero compression in number 1 cylinder, so I don't think it's either one of those. But it's worth a shot before I pull the whole engine. This head is really easy to get out. The only problem is the mounts for the lift hooks are on the head, so I'm gonna have to figure something else out. Once I take the head out, I won't have those hooks anymore, but I'm sure I can figure something out to mount to the block or something. And tonight I got my little buddy here with me because I gotta watch him anyway, so I figured he might as well be out here with me. You all good there, Noah? There you go. Look, you got boots on, you got a coat on. You're doing good. Must be really cold out, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it's cold. How started? It's amazing.
Look, you can put this right here, just like this. Boom, right there, just like that. Oh, right to YouTube, huh? No, he's all good.
Let's go. like that. I need that.
So I can't seem to find a drain plug for this radiator, so I've been trying to disassemble it. I still can't find one, but I'm going to try to keep disassembling it until I find something. So I was looking for a drain plug, but I guess what they have here is something weird. That's the bottom radiator hose right there, and it tees off of that, and there's this line right here that goes up towards the front, which is why I probably didn't suspect that that's where it would be. But I guess it looks like if you pull this out, that is our drain plug. That's pretty weird. I've never seen that before. I got the service manual for this machine, but it just doesn't have a lot of information about it. Like, pulling the engine is like 10 steps. It's not detailed at all. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a different manual that has more information. But it is a service repair manual. I don't know, this doesn't really look factory to me, but maybe. There is so much room to work in here now. This is the only way to do this. I also wanted to take this radiator out because I noticed there was just so much junk in here, so I wanted to try to clean this all out. Regardless of if I took the engine out or not, I just wanted to get in here, just get all this stuff out of here. It's just loaded with just junk. So I know I've disassembled this fuel system a bunch of times, maybe 3 or 4 times now, but I gotta disassemble it all again, get the valve cover off again, and then we'll work on this side. This is the intake and the exhaust on this side.
Because it was this, it was dry, and it will beat your butt.
Okay. So I'm trying to get these nuts off to be able to get this turbo out, and they are not coming out, and I can only fit the open end over that nut. It's just not coming out. So I'm gonna have to take the whole intake out, and then somehow I'm gonna have to try to get that out eventually though. It's like a 32nd of an inch from working to put the closed end here. And if I got the closed end there, I could probably get that nut out. But there's also 2 in the bottom, so probably best that I just get this whole thing out.
Oh my god, that's fine.
No. Yeah, might as well.
And it's like pinching it.
Oh yeah, look at that. Broken piston. Yep.
Huh.
Well, we got all kinds of stuff going on here.
Pretty much you piston and valve.
See, that piece right there went into the cylinder, which I don't know how that happened. There's some damage to the valve. But most importantly, it's supposed to have a piece like that on there, which almost looks like it's integral with the head, but it's not. I think you can remove that piece. So I should be able to replace that. Hopefully I can save this head.
It's not small enough to get in there, I think.
Yeah, it's melted right out of there.
Oh yeah. It is one with the piston.
I mean, the cylinder walls don't seem too bad. Let's see if this is a sleeved engine or not.
Really on there. There you go. You can see that the gasket's really messed up right there where it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a sleeved engine. Which is probably alright because we still got a lot of cross hatching and stuff. I don't know about this piston, but you know what though? Almost looks like we got, oh, maybe not.
What?
It almost looked like we had a bent connecting rod or something, but I think this looks different.
I think your rod is fine. It's just the hole in the piston.
This one was just full of stuff, so it looked different. Yeah, it looked like it. I think the connecting rod's fine, but either way, we got to be able to get to the bottom of the piston.
Whatever metal that hole is now is in the oil pan somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how this happened. That's the biggest question of all.
Yeah.
I guess you really never know. Maybe the machine was tipped over. No, that wouldn't cause that though.
No. Somebody probably was beating the beans out of it and that happened.
Either way, that piston's got to come out, and in order to do that, we got to have room. Actually, this cylinder, if we could drop, nah, we're not going to be able to drop this oil pan. There's just no way.
Yeah, there's not enough room below it.
No, this engine's got to come out. Engine's got to come out. I wanted to create some holes in this thing in the bottom to pull it out, but I'm seeing now that these mounts are so close.
Right, yeah, you wouldn't even be able to do that.
And then on top of that, you'd have to get access to the entire oil pan, which is a big hole in there. And we got all these hoses down here too.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things working
Very
against me on
risky
that.
Very risky to even try to do something like that.
So, looks like we're going to be pulling the engine.
Okay.
So it looks like these cylinder walls are fine on 2 and 3. Let's just see if 1 and 4 are good.
If you want to use that.
Yeah. Huh. Maybe a hone can take that out. It's like right up above where the piston rings would be. There's definitely some scratching there. Definitely some scratching. I don't know. Well, the good news is we'll have the block out, but the bad news is it's a lot of disassembly for the block. I don't know if a hone would take that or not.
I don't think you can even really see it on the camera.
So you guys can see what I got going on here. This chamber here has like this cap on it that came off. Somehow that got pushed down. I don't know how that happened. That's kind of what's stumping me right now. I just don't know why that would happen, because that would mean that the force would have to come down, which means that, I don't know, somebody stuck something in there or something. Either that or maybe it came loose. I don't know how that happened. Maybe you guys would know. If you know, leave me a comment. Tell me if this has ever happened, if anybody's ever seen this, and what caused it. That would be greatly appreciated, because I'm kind of stumped as to why that would happen. That chamber is for the injector as well as the glow plugs. So I don't know, unless somebody took the glow plug out and was trying to test it and put something in there that wasn't supposed to go in and it was too long and it popped that piece out. Other than that, I think it may have just gotten loose. I really don't know. And I also don't know if that's what caused the hole in the piston, or if something else did it and then whatever else that was caused that piece to come out of the chamber. I'm not really sure. I just tore this apart now, so I haven't thought about it too much. But being that there's a major step ahead of me, which is taking this engine out, I think we're going to end the video here. And we'll probably do another video for the rest of the disassembly and the reassembly. But if we run into any troubles, I think we're going to actually make 3 videos out of this, because this is quite a bit of work. So if we have to disassemble this block because of all the scratching on the cylinders, it's not really scratching. I think just the piston melted the aluminum onto the cylinder walls. I think that's what we're facing. So hopefully we can just hone that out. And if that's not the case, then when we take this engine out, we got to completely disassemble it and clean it up to have it machined. I wish there was liners on this, because I know that that would be an easy thing to do. Just replace the liners, but they only have repair sleeves, which most Perkins engines do have liners in them, but not this one. So I think if we were to end up bringing this to a machine shop, I'd probably put a repair sleeve in here. So they would bore it out bigger than it is right now, and then you'd put this repair sleeve in there to bring it back down to the original spec. I'm really hoping not to have to do that, but I won't know until I get that piston out and I can start honing that cylinder. And maybe if it's good enough, we'll just run with it, because that would sure save a lot of work. Because once you get involved in taking apart the block, then you just got to take every single thing off it, every bolt and nut off of it. The injection pump, which is like integral into the block, it's like built into the block. The block has like a housing that's all integral, and the pump slides into there, and then the timing is in here, which I don't think is the end of the world, but it's just a lot more work. But I don't want to move too fast with this project, because there's a lot of stuff in the bottom here. I'd like to take this engine out with the pump, and then it'll be all empty, and then I'd like to just pressure wash this whole thing out. So I need to figure out how I can freewheel these tracks. That way we can pull this out of the garage and do it right. I don't want to cut corners with this. I want to pressure wash this entire engine bay out, pressure wash the entire engine off, get everything nice and clean and meticulous like it was when it left the factory. So that may be too much to cram into 2 videos, so that's why I'm saying it might be 3. Because to take this engine out, we still have to disassemble everything in here, which they want you to take out the pump with the engine, so all the hoses got to come out. There's some plates in here that needs to come out to gain access, and then there's some motor mounts up front here, and there's 2 in the back. I wish we could do it where we could just disassemble the motor from the pumps, but it's really not feasible in this machine, because it's in a spot where it's just the frame right here. This is right where the motor mounts to the pump, so it's not really feasible to do that, which is probably why they say in the service manual that you should remove the pump with it. So anyways, I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.